Good day, fellow rockers and moshers. Welcome to the Metal Connection, the connection to all things metal. I'm J-Dub, and today on the show we're doing a 5 favorite Kiss albums from each guest here. So we've all picked our 5 favorite guest albums, and I will say these may not be the 5 best Kiss albums of all time. That could be a whole debate between thousands and millions of fans. So I think for this will just be our 5 favorites. They may not be the best, but maybe just our 5 favorites for whatever various reason. And I did put mine in order. I don't know if anyone else did put theirs in order, but I figured this was 5. I could probably crunch it out. And I did put mine in order. So when we get to that, mine's in order. But we will get the guests to introduce themselves. Dave, if you want to introduce yourself, be below me here.
Sure. My name's Dave. I'm from East Coast, Canada.
All right. And then Steve, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, glad to be back. Steve Tracy, guitarist from Kronikill here in Kelowna, BC on the West Coast, and also be a part of this.
And absolutely, and I will say that if Kronikill does have the social media links, that I'll definitely link that down below, the Facebook, the YouTube. Although I think he just has a Facebook page.
No, you just Google it and it's all there, bro. All the links, everything's there.
Yeah, so I'll get the links and then I'll
no self promo, just banners.
Yeah, cool. And Big Dog, if you want to introduce yourself there.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Biggs. I'm from East Coast, USA, and I'm your rock and roll big dog.
Nice. Love it.
Right. And I don't know if I should just go first or if the guests want to go first, but maybe I'll just put Witherall on the spot and make him go first with his, I guess, least 5th favorite.
Sure. All right.
Or if you do you have yours in order? Yeah.
I don't have them in order, but I'll.
Oh, you don't have in order. Okay, right. So this is just random 5.
Creatures of the Night.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Eric Carr.
Yeah. Love this album. Yeah.
That's a different cover.
What's that?
Yeah, that's the alternate cover.
He's got the.
Yeah.
Well, I would consider the one that you have the alternate, even though I guess the.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got the vinyl too. Yeah. Two album covers with 2 members that never played on the album.
Right?
Yeah, 1982, I believe, and
85 for the reissue.
And who's to know who's really playing on these albums? That's a whole other thing. Who knows who's really playing drums? It probably is Eric Carr for most of it. Who really knows who's playing?
Yeah, I found with Creatures of the Night. I mean, obviously it was early 80s. They still had their, that little bit of the 70s sound, but they developed into the 80s type of sound on that album. It was a little darker album. I mean, I Love It Loud, awesome track, classic Kiss tune.
Yeah,
it's a great album. I found with David will probably agree with this one. On this album, the 1985 reissue. Jamie, have you heard this album? You've heard this one, right?
Maybe not that particular reissue.
This reissue, it's kind of remixed a bit, so it has more of the glam. It's obviously the same tracks, but I don't know, it has more of a glam vibe to it. It's a little more punchier than the original album. The original album's a little darker, heavier. This one's it's brightened up a bit. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It's brightened up.
I think the track order is different too.
Yeah. A little
this
different.
This is actually the first Creatures that I got, and I've not used the track order being like that.
Yeah, track order is a little different. Same tracks, but a little different. But yeah, I find this one is. I don't know which one I prefer. They're both great. Good album.
Yeah, I don't want to give it too much away, but I love this album. This is pretty well.
Me too.
This is coming out party to heavy metal. This is pretty well like their take as say, okay, heavy metal's coming in, and we got to get with it, or else we're going to be left in the dust. And they were early on, straight away with it. 82, like right before the thrash wave, Kiss came out with like pretty well power metal, although it's not power metal per se, but This is straightforward heavy metal, I'd say, coming out of that 70s Kiss era.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's a heavier album for sure.
Yeah,
This,
heavier.
this is the album with it's got War Machine on it, and I don't know how many times you've seen them in concert, but every time they play that in concert, I've seen them 8 times. That song just always crushes for me. It's so heavy.
Mm,
It's a simple song with a simple riff,
yeah,
but it's just super heavy. It's got big open breathing spaces, and it's just I love that song, and I love when they play it live. Love it.
great album.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to say, every time War Machine comes on, I always like to play air drummer, you know, with the opening drum filled there. But I always like to play air drums with War Machine. But I'll try not to speak too much on that because that's definitely making my list at some point. But Steve, if you want to go up with your first pick, or your last pick, or
Well, I didn't put them in order of like. I just found the 5, and I'll have to say, I don't know, being an old schooler myself, the 70s and Kiss, I mean, there was nothing else. And it spawned everything that's ever happened in my life since, because anybody that was a Kiss fan became a friend, and that friend led me to this and that. And next thing you know, 53 years later, I'm still listening to the good old rock tracks from the 70s. So my list compiles of the 70s. And I'm going to start in no particular order, but I have to say, like I was listening to tonight, Alive 2, which covers a barrage of their hits, Christine 16, Dr. Love, Detroit Rock City, God of Thunder. They're all in there. And when I was a kid, that was just like, what the hell? My friends are listening to the Bay City Rollers, and I'm listening to God of Thunder live, screaming, blood dripping, fire breathing. Yes, I'm 8 years old. That's got to be so impacting. I still to this day, I put it on. I'm like, yeah, the quality's not all there that I thought it was, but great album, man. I love it. Still relevant today, and it set the stage for what a live show was supposed to be. They set the stage for that. That's my pick. Kiss Alive 2. I don't have the album anymore.
Great album.
I think that was the well, maybe not the second one, but that was Kiss's big break. Was those live albums? That's what made them big. Those first couple albums didn't kind of hit it off until after. So it wasn't until that Kiss Alive came out, and then really became a huge, unexpected hit. And then people went back and listened to the studio albums. But
that's exactly what happened for me.
Was those live albums?
I have like
songs on that. I found the albums after,
Yeah, I have like probably about 25 Kiss albums on vinyl, and I must say I don't own Alive 2.
Wow. Shocking.
Yeah, very shocking.
Shocking revelation.
Shock me! Hey, there's another one.
And I'd probably say people from that time, or you guys would know, or you guys probably just do a quick little vote on would be like hearing Kiss live the first time you ever heard Kiss, or was it a studio track?
Mine was MTV.
Nice.
Circa 1991, which will only be my first album.
Yeah, I can't remember the first Kiss album I heard. I heard it through friends years ago. It's the first time I ever heard it. Long time ago.
The first thing I ever heard was, "You want the best? You got the best. The loudest band in the world, Kiss."
I'd say that's one of the first things I remember too, is that
that intro, the greatest band in the world.
Yeah.
Get up.
So we'll take it away with Big Dog's next pick.
All right, so I just kind of made an allusion to this album, but my first experience with Kiss was the MTV back in the days of the early '90s.
Nice.
So when I was becoming becoming a teenager and getting to my rock and roll pre-consciousness, as I like to talk about. So the videos for Unholy and I Just Wanna and Domino, and my God, so this album has a lot of personal significance for me.
Nice.
That, and I honestly, I think it's the heaviest Kiss album that they've ever made. Bruce Kulick, he is got to be one of the best lead guitarists in rock and metal. He's so good. I love this album. I've been loving it for 30 years. And just so many good songs on here. I mean, Unholy is an awesome song. That's the Gene one. That Take It Off, the next song. God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too, which is an Argent cover of an Argent song that they kind of redid. Domino, I play that riff on guitar all the time. Thou Shalt Not, and I Just Wanna. I guess Vinnie Vincent had some co-writes on this, and he had like 3 co-writes on this. But this album is just amazing. It's super heavy. It's got Bruce. He does a lot of bluesy leads, and he shreds on some of the tracks. And it's just for a non-makeup album, this would be it for me.
Good album, very good album.
Yeah, that's my number 5. Number 5. I'm gonna go in ascending order. From this would be my fifth choice.
Nice, yeah.
It's also got the Car Jam on the tail end of it, which is their tribute to Eric Carr, Car Jam 81.
Yep.
Because Eric died, I think, in 1991, the same day that Freddie Mercury died.
Yeah.
So this was kind of the last Kiss studio album that he played on, but it was Eric Singer who did all the tracks, but Eric Carr played on that song. Yeah, sorely missed.
Yep.
Well, it looks like some 90s Kiss did make it up on the list.
Yeah.
I don't imagine we'd see Psycho Circus, but you never know.
There's a couple tracks on there.
Yeah, there's a few ones, right? And anyway, I guess we'll lead into my next.
Kiss. Total different Kiss, though.
Although I guess a couple of them did reunite on a couple of songs. You're right, though. Anyway, maybe controversial, but my fifth favorite, I guess you call it, is Kiss Asylum.
Yes.
And
yes.
I originally had Lick It Up, but just this afternoon I was listening to Lick It Up and I enjoyed Asylum just a little bit more, so I just actually swapped Lick It Up out for Asylum. So Asylum just made my cut here, and people love this whole album. I know it's one of those covers where you might judge it by its cover. I'm telling you, do not judge it by its cover. This is full-on heavy metal Kiss.
And a lot of people did judge it by the cover.
Just like Creatures.
Yeah, because it looks like Poison.
Yeah, no, it's they bring it pretty heavy on this one. And even I know this track number 5, I'm Alive, like there's some double bass, like double kick drum in there. Eric Carr just brings Kiss to life, well, into the modern era with this upbeat heavy metal type sound. And Eric Carr was the driving force behind some of these awesome 80s albums. And I love this album, especially I'm Alive, just pummeling, maybe not pummeling, like brutal double bass, but there is some cool, hyper double bass going on there that he's bringing to the band, and it's kind of brings it out in spurts in this album. But I almost dig this whole album. King of the Mountain, Any Way You Slice It, Who Wants to Be Lonely, Trial by Fire, I'm Alive, Tears Are Falling. Just great.
There's no bad songs on that album.
No,
there's not one bad song off that album. The worst cover in the history of Kiss.
Yeah.
But I might go on a limb later on and say
the Elders got a worse cover.
Kiss album. It might be the best.
Oh wow!
Might.
It's good.
Yeah, I know. Is people definitely even now to this day would probably still judge it off its cover or whatever, and I don't even care to do things like that. The music is kick ass. And if anyone who has been watching the show, I'm a sucker for this big arena rock, arena metal sound, and Kiss has that. And then none of it was like hum and drummy type slow stuff. It was all upbeat, fast stuff.
Nice. Cool.
I don't think my inside shows that. Oh yeah, it does. No, it has a different CD. That's all it is.
This is the West German pressing from the 80s.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, big fan of 80s Kiss stuff, although, I can't negate anything that was going on in the 70s, obviously. So, anyway, we'll keep her going with Dave Witherall's next pick.
Right on. Might as well just add that one too there, Jamie. That's my pick as well.
Cool.
Yeah, love Asylum. Great album. And I mean, everything you said is, what more could be said about the album? You named all that. Not one bad song in this album. No. It is, I agree, it's one of the most cheesiest looking covers, but yeah.
And you just got to laugh every time you hear All Night.
Yeah.
That song,
Yeah.
wherever I am, whatever mood I'm in, I hear that song or I put the CD on, and I always brings a smile on my face, no matter what day I'm having. If I'm
They
having a
did a
shitty day,
music.
I put this on.
They
That's
did
it,
a
man.
music video for that one too, didn't they?
What's that?
They did a music video for that one too, didn't they?
I believe they did, but I don't know if
I
I've
think
ever
they
seen
did.
it.
Yeah.
Just
Good track though. Tears
so
are
many
falling.
good
That's
tracks
another
on
favorite
here.
of mine. Trial by Fire. Anyway, you slice it. I love those
Yeah.
tracks, man.
I'd say
And like
I'm
Jamie said, the drumming propels this into the next level.
Yeah.
The drumming,
Great
man.
album.
Yeah, Eric Carr totally gave Kiss a kick in the ass and just said, "Okay, we're going. Enough of this, Peter Criss '70s type drumming. We got modern arena rock drumming in here," and he probably brought Kiss alive.
Well, he took them from a bubblegum rock band, the
Yeah.
70s sound, to a full-fledged heavy metal band.
Yes.
That's the difference between Peter Criss and Eric Carr. I mean, Peter Criss was a great drummer. And
Rock
obviously he was a great singer, and I have a lot of respect for him. But Eric Carr just brought it to the next level.
Agreed.
Totally agree, and then we'll agree more as I pull out some of the other '80s stuff. But I do have some '70s stuff in here as well. So anyway, Steve Tracy, if you want to go up next here.
That's to say, the Asylum album, you're right. The sound, the Eric Carr drumming stepped them right up to a different level. And that's, the Kiss that we still love is still there with Eric and, whatever. But I'm going to regress back into my 70s list because after I got a taste of Alive 2, I wanted to hear what those songs all really sounded like. So the first thing I ever did was I went out and got my mom convinced to buy me the Kiss Destroyer album from somewhere at Orchard Park. And when I heard the studio versions of Detroit Rock City and God of Thunder and Shout It Out Loud and Do You Love Me? Well, and the cover, the artwork was like, these guys are the everything my parents hate. Yes, I love it. But great album. Beth, I mean, that took them,
Yeah.
And just that orchestration in their mix, and they had that big producer come in and they did all that Casablanca record stuff, and it was just like, okay, this is dialed in. This is what it should sound like. And for me, as a kid, that was still heavy and beyond. And just the whole idea of these larger than life guys on these burning cinders coming over with their makeup and their skull boots. And I was just like, yeah, I gotta have that. Yeah. I'll tell you. So Destroyer, I mean, Detroit Rock City is still on my Spotify daily list. And I don't care if it's live version or if it's the studio version, but God of Thunder, with all that silly stuff, it sounds like kids. And then as I got older, I realized, hey, at the beginning of the song, they just had it sped up on tape and they're all they're doing is telling them to turn it up. And it was all creepy and eerie, God of Thunder. And, I still love that tune, So Destroyer for sure, 76. I was, 10 years old, I think, or something.
Yeah. I think that was one of their heavier 70s albums too.
Right? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely was the best produced of all the 70s albums.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And definitely can't discredit Beth. Beth was a huge song for them.
Right? That launched them to a total different audience too, right? It gave them the radio, beyond rock and roll all night.
And I dig that song. I still dig Beth. Beth is a good song.
That was a good song.
And I was going to say, God of Thunder, that was Gene's big coming out party live, right? When he would do, that's the song he would do, the blood
pit and all that stuff.
So I think up into the rafters.
The demon, and the suspension cables. And
oh
yeah, they were the kings of the show. Glitter.
So I was at a show one time, a Kiss show, and Gene's doing his God of Thunder thing. And the suspension cables, they didn't lift them up. And he was so visibly upset at the road crew. He was swearing at them and everything. You could see, because he's doing the song. He's like, why aren't I going up? Why aren't I going up in the rafters? And they couldn't figure it out. That was the only time out of the 8 concerts that I ever saw that he didn't go up in the rafters to sing God of Thunder. He was so angry. I've never seen anything like it. He was cussing everybody out.
I've seen the footage of that.
I was there for that show.
Wow. That was on, remember Gene Simmons had his own show, Family Jewels.
Yeah.
And they showed the concert where that suspension cable failed and he was all pissed. They were doing a worst moments episode and that version was on there when he got stuck. And you're right.
He was so angry.
Oh yeah.
So he did the song from the stage,
Mhm.
and it was just different because Kiss, the whole concert works like clockwork. Nothing, everything. They go on time. They go right on time, like right at 9 or 9:30. Not a minute later, not a minute sooner.
Everything.
The concert ends. Everything's like clockwork there. So when something that goes wrong, you notice it because you know that everything's got to be right.
Goddamn Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. So that's my Kiss story.
I know Destroy was this close to making my list over another 70s one, but just for Detroit Rock City alone, that could make anyone's Kiss list just for Detroit Rock City alone.
Never die.
I like some of the deeper cuts on Destroyer. I like Sweet Pain.
Yeah.
Flaming Youth is pretty good. So those tracks don't get a lot of credit.
Do You Love Me?
I love that song.
Do you love me?
I like Paul's banter before he does that track.
Yeah.
He always says that the city where he's in, he's like, Detroit City, do you love me? It's just awesome. Love it. I love all that stuff.
Shout it out loud. I mean, the chant, everybody going, da la, walk.
Yeah, that's quintessential 70s arena rock. Quintessential.
It's the epitome.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. David, if you want to go up next here.
All right. So I'm gonna go with probably a non-standard choice, but this album means a lot to me, and I can explain why, and I love the songs. It's gonna be The Elder. I love it. I love this album. This is where Paul started wearing the shorter hair and the headband, and Gene cut his hair, and I guess kind of Ace really wasn't in the band, but he was in the band. And Eric Carr, this was Eric Carr's first album, and he thought they were going to do a rock record. They ended up doing a friggin' progressive concept album.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't deny that some of these songs are heavy. I mean, The Oath is really heavy. That's a heavy metal song. And I love Paul's emotion on Just a Boy. You got Ace's Dark Light. You've got Gene on Only You sounding very evil, and Under the Rose actually is one of my favorite songs from this album. But my favorite song from The Elder is I. Just the chant, I believe in me, because I believe in me. That's just so many hooks are there. I love it. And they even have one of the few Kiss instrumentals, Escape from the Island. I think there was an instrumental on the first album. And but Kiss isn't really an instrumental band. They're more kind of a meat and potatoes rock band.
Yeah.
So when you hear an instrumental, you kind of take note. But it's kind of a cool instrumental. It's got it's got the sirens that they're escaping and stuff. And I really like this album. I mean, everybody says it's like the worst Kiss album, or
it's the Saint Anger of Kiss.
It is, but it is. But I think this is way better than Saint Anger. And they were at their most disjointed on this. I've read a lot of books about Kiss. The band was like fracturing at this point.
Yeah.
They just got Eric Carr in the band. They're trying to get back into the groove of things. They get Bob Ezrin, who was on Destroyer. They're trying to recreate the magic of Destroyer. He's producing it. And they turn out this. People say it's a big turd. I love it.
They had major business issues going on between the partners too. There was all kinds of stuff because it's after the album, one that I picked, and I remember when it came out and I was like, something's not right there, but they got some good tracks on that album for sure.
Yeah, there's some really heavy tracks, and I've seen some of the videos that they did for I guess they did some promo videos, and the promo videos are really cool. They've got Aces in the promo videos. He only plays on his songs. I don't think he plays. I don't know if he plays a lot on the album, honestly.
Yeah, Ace was on the way out there for sure.
Yeah, I know he didn't record with them. I read he lived in Danbury, Connecticut at the time, and he had like a recording studio in his house, and he would record the tracks. He would send them up to.
He just sent the tracks.
Yeah, he would send the tracks in the mail. I think they were in Vancouver recording this with Bob Ezrin. So he would send the tracks up to Vancouver, and they would just put it together from there. Yep. It was really bad. The band was in really bad shape at this point, but
you couldn't tell by the around though. He was fucking hammered.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in bad shape. Yeah, I think that's around the time he got to a really bad drunk driving accident. We wrapped his car around a pole. He got really hurt. Bad. Man was in dire straits.
I still find it interesting that they were so confident that they were going to make a movie around it that they put a soundtrack to it out before the movie ever even existed. And now the movie still doesn't exist, and I still think it's funny that it's a movie. It's a soundtrack to a movie that doesn't exist.
I read a whole book about the making of this album, and actually, apparently, this album had a lot of spoken word parts that they totally cut out. So somewhere in the vaults is the spoken word parts that go with the songs, because when people listened to the album, they couldn't really understand what the concept was because all the spoken word stuff had been taken out. So the story is that they're somewhere in the vault somewhere, which hopefully will get released as like a double or triple disc in the future, with the spoken word parts to flesh out the story here. But
Nice.
you know,
It's another album I don't own.
totally
I guess
worth it.
it's kind of a shame that the movie that they never did make the movie, because I think it probably would have made a lot more sense having the movie with the album, but that's just a whole mess in itself.
My hope is that it's better than Phantom of the Park, because that movie is pretty bad.
Not when you're 8. It was amazing.
I mean, there's the part where you see the guy jumping on the trampoline to jump over the wall or something. I'm like, dude, you didn't edit out the trampoline. We could see the trampoline.
No CG.
Still a good movie though. I still watched it. It was pretty cool.
Best part's when they're fighting themselves on stage. That was hilarious with the doubles and lower platform boots because they couldn't walk in the high heels.
Oh my god! My favorite part is when Gene roars. He like doesn't really talk during one of the parts.
Yeah.
He's like, and
At the pool with the hood on.
Cool. Yeah, and the most that Ace says is ah! That's his whole line in the movie. He just like
hammered the whole time.
He didn't have one line in the movie. Not one real word.
Not line. He was drunk the whole time too, though.
And I think they actually they had a voice actor for Peter in that movie. He like didn't even speak in the movie.
Wasn't his voice.
No, it wasn't his voice.
No.
So talk about people, who's playing on the Kiss albums, who's actually talking on the Kiss movies.
Who's in the Kiss movie?
Who's in the Kiss movie? You don't even know.
Wow.
That's the magic of Kiss.
I was 8. That was awesome.
Still awesome.
Yeah. Well, to actually keep the solo band member talk going, is I know the solo albums are technically Kiss albums, so I thought that was free game to include one of the solo albums in my top 5 here. So we're going with the Ace solo album here, and this is one hell of an album. It's Ace Frehley was being sneaky, where he was saving all these good songs for his inevitable solo album, because they knew that they had to record these solo albums for
contract.
They signed a contract saying that they would.
Signed a contract.
He was being sleazy, saving all his good songs for his solo album, and left all the other guys with shit. they weren't ready. Because in fairness, they were giving all, like, when Gene wrote a good song, he would give it to the album. When Paul would write a good song, he gave it to the album. But not Ace. He kept it himself. Yeah, he kept it to himself. so that's why this is one hell of an album. Pretty well the whole album to me is pretty well like a greatest hits, if you were to call it. And yeah, I don't really need to say every song, but Snowblind is incredible. Ozone, New York Groove, Back in the New York Groove, and Fractured Mirror. This is just one hell of an album.
Mirror.
I don't know if anyone would agree, but this is hands down the best Kiss solo album. But
it is by far, yeah.
I really like Gene's though. I gotta tell you, I really like Gene's.
Gene's is good, but I like that one better.
When I revisited Paul's actually wasn't that bad.
Paul's is the most Kiss-like of them all.
Yeah.
Paul sounds like a Kiss album.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But Gene's got Cher on it, so it's kind of funny.
I guess I don't know. It's kind of a wind up if Ace did the right thing by saving all the good songs for that song, but hey, that album is legendary because he did save those good songs for that. So I don't know. It's kind of that definitely did piss the guys off. I know there was some in between chatter where the solo albums came out and it was kind of widely regarded as his was the best, and they were all kind of pissed off about it. So I think that did start the whole turmoil thing and kind of led to their downfall. But it's kind of here nor there if anyone knows the history behind that. But I think that was kind of the start of the what really kind of broke the bridges between everyone. Because they knew that he saved songs, and they all thought, "What the hell? You've been saving songs? You've been saving these songs?"
There's Ace.
That's pretty cool, David. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
still sealed.
agree. Totally agree. Ace's album was by far the best out of the four, but Gene had the best cover. The red with Gene.
Whoever had your favorite face, so to speak, your favorite.
Interestingly enough, that
Ace's
Ace
song
solo album is
by
very
far
easy to
the
play
best.
guitar to.
That Fractured Mirror tune, like so maidenish too. You know, it was just awesome. New York Groove. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
By far the best. I was gonna have it on my list, but I had to stay at 5. So
and a lot of bands cover Snowblind. I know actually one really cool band. I forget their name, but really cool band that I listen to covers that Snowblind song. Oh, I can't see it. I forget who they're called.
Was it Hammerfall?
No. I'll look when the next person talks. I'll look and I'll remember who it was. But yeah, Ace solo record is pretty well the greatest hits. Even though Ace Frehley doesn't have greatest hits, but if he did, that just throw on that whole CD. But Dave Witherall, if you want to go up next.
Sure.
I know what I was going to say. Covers that. Nashville Pussy. Nashville Pussy does an awesome cover of Snowblind. Anyway, back to Dave's next pick. I remember who it was. Hot in the Shade.
Hot in the Shade. As you can see, I'm going with an 80s theme. Yeah, Hot in the Shade. Love this album. Rise to It. Great track.
Rise to
Hide Your Heart. Forever. I mean, great, awesome songs, man. Awesome. King of Hearts, Cadillac Dreams. Yeah, this was kind of, it was 80. It came out in 89. So they still had their 80s sound, but I could tell that they were kind of leaning towards more of a 90s sound when this one came out. But yeah, great album.
I actually find that album to be pretty consistent. Like, it's pretty well good all the way through. It has some good standout tracks.
Yeah, good album.
It's got the first song where Eric Carr sings Little Caesar, which is actually one of my favorite Kiss songs. I love that. Hey, Little Caesar. No one ever talks about that song. I love that song.
I think it was one of those things where by the end of the 80s, even the middle half of the 80s, people were sick of Kiss and they just wrote them off. So they just said, this album sucks, any album past, 82 sucked for certain people. And they did just base it off the cover. They just based it off, they were sick of Kiss. And it had nothing to do with the music. So they would say it sucks, even though these albums did not suck. It's just that particular person was done with Kiss, and anything could suck after that.
I must say this album definitely had one of their biggest songs though, Forever. That ballad was like a huge song, man. That was
a Michael Bolton co-write.
Yeah. Even if you weren't a Kiss fan, you heard that song. That song was played on the radio like constantly. Right? They had the video for it. They played the video all the time. Yeah, it's a good album.
Actually, even before I thought about doing a show, I bought that Kiss Hot in the Shade just because it is a really good 80s Kiss album that I didn't have, and I recently bought that a couple weeks ago, even before the topic about the show came up, but wasn't here in time for that, even though it probably would have made my top 5 anyway, but it is a pretty decent, solid album.
It's a solid album, yeah.
Yeah. And Steve, if you want to go up next here.
Well, I have to honestly admit that I was one of those guys that was done with Kiss at that point.
Yeah.
I was Slayer by then. I mean, Kiss, what's that? That's for anyway, but not to say it's still not a great album. They had some good tracks off it, and I have to say, I got revisited back to Kiss when I matured and realized music is good. You don't judge it just because of the cover. But, you know, I bought Iron Maiden because of the cover and I wasn't unimpressed. So
Yeah.
my next pick from the 70s again, after Destroyer, I had to go back and find the rest of those songs off the Alive 2. So naturally, 77 brought out Love Gun. And there they were, Christine 16, Shock Me, I Stole Your Love. And I just, you know, and the cover again. There's guys larger than life, girls half dressed and, you know, at their feet. I was like, I want to be a fucking rock star. That's what it was. They were the epitome of rock gods, you know. So that album, again, from that age of my life, always when I hear those songs, I go right back to those carefree days. And it's Love Gun. I'm in summertime, you know, sipping root beer with my buddy or whatever. It's just like, yeah, this is what Kiss is to me still. Good times, party, girls, rock and roll. Let's go. That's my pick. Love Gun, 77. Great
And
track.
actually, well, that's actually my next pick. Well, we'd cycle around to me after David Big, so that's actually in my next pick as well. So I'm just gonna just chime in and do that all at the same time. But yeah, Love Gun is actually my next pick as well coming up. And the reason I did choose this over Destroyer is Destroyer might have a couple better standout tracks like Detroit Rock City, but I think overall, in general, from top to bottom, I do slightly like Love Gun slightly more, just for all the deep cuts in general. But this whole album is pretty well good. And yeah, I Stole Your Love, Christine 16, Shock Me, Love Gun, Almost Human, Plaster Caster.
Plaster Caster. That's a great song.
And I guess there's a whole story behind that. Plaster Caster, I don't know if anyone else can tell it better than me, but just kind of, there was a girl back in the day, I think a porn star lady or someone that used to sleep with all the rock stars, and she used to get plaster castered of human male genitalia or something like that, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And they kind of wrote this song over this groupie, basically, that would do all the sleep with all the rock stars. I don't know whether
Big trophies.
I think her name was Cynthia Plastercaster. I think that was the girl's name.
Okay, there you go.
What's their porn name?
And yeah, I think one of them must have got with her at some point. Who knows? Or
The
I
story
think
was
Bang.
she was impressed by Gene's, but not so much by Paul's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I don't know. I kind of think Gene was full of shit this whole time. He's telling people he slept with so many girls, and I don't even think he's like that. But I hear, who knows? Who knows if these stories are true or not?
It's all about the mythology of Kiss. It's all the mythology.
The persona of the demon.
Yes.
Fuck, what's her name? Sharon. She had him under tight wraps from day one. Fuck, he didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
It's all business. It's all about selling the image.
I almost think it was more mythology, mystique for Gene. I don't think he was kind of, but who knows? We don't know. Nobody really knows, I guess.
It was the 70s. Free love.
But yeah, that was my next
Cow
pick.
tongue always helps.
And I was tossing and turning between this or Destroyer, and I think just overall, I slightly do like this one. I'd probably give this one like a 9.5 out of 10. I'd probably give Destroyer like an 8.5 or 9. So just slightly better, just for the deep cuts in general, but
Yeah.
very close.
It's a great album.
We'll do Big Dog's next pick.
All right. I'm sticking with an 80s theme. I love the 80s Kiss. I like the 70s Kiss, but I like the 80s Kiss a little bit better.
Yeah,
My
I think
next
I do
pick,
too.
Animalize.
Huh.
And the reason why I love this album so much, I mean, another crappy cover. I mean, this is pretty much everybody laughs at this cover. You know,
Yeah.
it probably cost them a lot of money to make this cover, but you know, it's just it's garbage. This is the worst.
Looks like
One of the
a
worst
steam
covers
cover.
ever. It's terrible. But anyways, you know, this is Paul's Potty Mouth era. This actually would have been a better cover than that. The animal
Probably.
pelts,
Yeah,
the fur.
I agree.
Right,
But
and yeah, try and Kiss Animalize on that. Yeah, right. That probably would have
you
been
know,
better.
there's a lot of swearing on this album, and Kiss is not known for swearing, but during in the mid '80s, Paul had a potty mouth, and if you listen to a lot of the live stuff, I have a lot of live bootlegs from the '80s. He swears a lot in concert. So we're not in the bubblegum era anymore. We're not kiddies buying lunch boxes. They're not doing that anymore by this time. They're rough and tumble. Yeah, this is heavy metal, and this is a great album. I mean, it's got that the very famous "Heaven's on Fire," which they play to this day, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that video is freaking cheesy but amazing. I like this whole album. I don't think there's a bad song on this album. The only thing that bothers me about this album is the lead guitar. It's just a million notes, a million miles per hour. It's shred guitar without any meaning or relevance. That's my main. That's the reason why it's not my number 2 or number 1. It's just I love Mark St. John. I think he's a great guitarist, but the story is he could never play the same solo twice. And I don't like the lead guitar on this. It's too fast. It's like a bumblebee buzzing in my head. This was the era of the shredders, but I think he actually got sick. He had something wrong with his hands, and that's when I think Bruce Kulick took over in '84 at some point on this tour. So Bruce is not on this album. It's Mark St. John. The songs and the riffs, amazing. The hooks, even more amazing. I mean, Get All You Can Take. I play that song all the time. Puts a smile on my face. My favorite song on this album is a deep cut called While the City Sleeps, which is sung by Gene. He's just, he's not wearing his demon makeup at this point. They're still not in the makeup anymore, but I feel like if they were in the makeup, I could see him doing this song, like spitting fire, and this is like the God of Thunder of the 80s, While the City Sleeps. I love that song. It's got a humongous riff. The drums are amazing. Just the lead guitar is just not my cup of tea, but everything else is really good.
Great album.
Another one where Eric Carr is just the star of this star of the sounds, basically.
Yeah, I guess Gene was in his Hollywood phase at this point too. A lot of people think his writing is kind of phoned in, and he wasn't really there for the band. And Paul kind of was like carrying the band at this point. Gene was in, I guess, a couple like B movies, I guess, and he was in
Runaway.
Runaway, yeah,
With Tom
yeah,
Selleck.
yeah. And then I think he was trying to get into TV and stuff, so
Yeah.
he really wasn't concentrating on Kiss at all by this point. Paul was
Money.
Paul was super angry at him during these years because Paul had to carry the band. Paul put his heart and soul into Kiss. Gene was not doing it at this point, and they really had some problems. They had some problems, but they worked it out. Obviously, they've been around for 45 years.
Yeah.
Well, Gene and Paul are Kiss.
Yeah,
That's true. 100% true.
I don't know. Gene was on board for this album in terms of the sound. Like, it was dark and heavy, and dark, but it was heavy. And Gene was heavy on it too. Like his bass licks and like his anytime he'd had to do background vocals or vocals, it was more heavier.
I'm not so sure how much Gene actually plays bass on this album. I've read different things
A lot
where
of studio work there.
Yeah, I don't know how much he was in the studio. I mean, obviously it's his voice, but as far as him being on all the tracks for the bass, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I've read some things where who's that guy? Gene Bolivar, who like has some co-writes.
Yeah.
He was a famous 80s guy. Did a lot of production work with a lot of bands. I think he might have played bass on some of the tracks.
Yeah. I think he did.
But it doesn't matter. Kiss is Kiss. Whoever writes the songs, whoever co-writes, whoever ghost plays on it, Kiss is always Kiss.
Yeah.
Because it's always Gene and Paul, even if they're fighting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They're like the
hire who
Jaggers.
they need to
Jagger
get what they want.
Yeah.
The story I heard was, that Gene wasn't mentally or emotionally involved, and he put in his parts, but he was too tied up in trying to make it in the Hollywood scene. And Paul was not digging it, but he still, that the album still went over. I mean, they had some good hits on that album. So, but how much was played and how much involvement? Gene was after the money. Paul was still hooked on, we can do this as a band because we got to stay in touch with Motley Crue. Fuck, we're not that old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
right?
their stage shows at this point were just, Eric Carr was just like actually the tempo of all the songs was just much faster. And if you see some of the concerts or listen to some of the stuff, it's sped up so fast. They're playing Detroit Rock City. It's like it's not ben, it's like ben, it's like almost like speed metal at some points.
Yeah,
So that's what I love about this era of Kiss. It's a totally different Kiss.
it is. They really ramped it up during the 80s.
Yeah, and that's why I like that energy of the 80s a little bit more than the 70s. I mean, the 70s songs were great and they're classic, but the 80s
Yeah.
is where it really gets the juices flowing.
Yeah, because rock was becoming metal. They had to step it up. Shred guitar, fast beats. Right? We were going into that era, you know, the new movement from British wave of new metal was through, and everybody was going, oh, now thrash was coming around and MTV, and oh my God. So yeah, they had to step it up.
There was a story I read where Eddie Van Halen he was kind of tired of his band and he wanted to kind of join Kiss at some point, and Gene's like, no. And they're like, no. They're like, he's probably way too good for Kiss. Plus, I think Gene and Paul didn't want to be upstaged.
Yeah.
I heard there was a story about that Eddie was somehow involved in trying to get in there, and yeah, I think you're right. I think it was more of a no, you make us all look bad was more the deal.
I mean, what makeup would he wear? Because I think it was when they're still in the makeup. Who knows what kind of makeup he would have worn?
Junior, you know,
that would have been insane.
Didn't Gene kind of help Van Halen get signed originally?
I think he produced their demo, but that's as far as it went.
Okay.
Yeah, like that old Westwood demo is kicking around the interwebs, and I think it even came out recently on a bonus disc or something on one of their albums. But you can hear some of those original demos and things like that. And yeah, I knew Gene kind of had a hand in some of that back then. Whether he discovered them or tried to get them.
I don't think he discovered them as much as he financed an early production, some kind of demo. I don't think he discovered them. They would have been discovered.
He got money and he got involved in the investment to get them a demo.
Yeah, I mean they were good enough on their own where Gene didn't even need to have anything to do with them. They would have been fine on their own.
And Gene thought he was the untouchable god anyway, so it didn't matter to him. Buck more money, who cares? Can't touch Kiss.
That would have been interesting though if Eddie Van Halen would have been in Kiss. I think it would have been very short lived, but it would have been funny.
Well, yeah, they were mad at Ace for making a good album. Imagine Eddie playing solos over Gene and Paul. I mean, fuck, they'd be downstage so bad they'd leave.
It'd be like a total clash of cultures.
Yeah, clash of talent.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, what?
No. Right.
Yeah.
Well, then I already gave my pick. I tied my pick in with Steve, I believe. So good. Yeah.
Love Gun.
And with Love Gun. And then so we'll just kind of skip me, and then Dave Witherall's up next.
Sure. All right. Before Mr. Big Dog picks it there.
There it is. There it is.
Right.
Look it up.
Yeah.
Finally, no makeup.
Yeah. Love this album.
Hell's breaking loose.
Yeah. I mean, this one here, obviously, released right after Creatures of the Night. Creatures of the Night, as we talked about, that still kind of had that, that heavy 70s sound breaking into the 80s. Lick It Up. Obviously, they, developed more into the 80s kind of glam side with this album. And but it's definitely a heavier album, that's for sure. Obviously the track Lick It Up, Young and Wasted, Exciter. Love that. All Hell's Breaking Loose. Great tracks on this album.
Great track.
Yeah.
Oh, it fits like a glove. That's like one of my favorite tracks off that album.
Yeah. This whole album's solid. I don't think there's a weak track on it, to be honest with it.
I'm not so keen on the ballad. Million to One.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's not bad.
I like that one. Paul sounds
I like that ballad.
Yeah, Paul sounds good.
Yeah. Lick It Up.
It's not forever.
No, it's not. It is not forever. Yeah.
When that album came out, I think they were in the same league in time as what was hitting big at that time. Oh, Quiet Riot.
Yep.
Mental Health. And Kiss finally, after Unmasked and the Elder and all this stuff, we got all these old school fans waiting to see you in the reveal. They finally come out with the now 80s hair metal Kiss and Lick It Up hits MTV
Yeah.
and Friday night videos, and you're just like, oh, now they're trying to be a rock band,
Yeah.
right? And I gotta say, you know, when I heard All Hell's Breaking Loose off that album, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll take this a little more seriously. And I was already into some heavier stuff by then, but
Yeah.
good album. Gotta
It is.
say, Lick It Up. I mean, to this day, I hear Lick It Up, as cheesy as it is, the song,
Yeah.
it's still better than the rest of the crap I'm hearing on the radio. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's Kiss, it's a rocking tune from the 80s. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lick It Up. It was almost on my 5 for sure.
Great album.
Great
Same.
album.
Same. It was almost on my 5. I know. I actually yesterday I think I originally did have Lick It Up in here, swapped out instead of Asylum. But last time I listened to Asylum, I really thought it was a little more energetic than Lick It Up was, even though Lick It Up is still full of energy as well. So it was really tough.
Yeah.
I like that dance all over your face too. Is a little ridiculous, but it's a
I
fun
love
one.
that song.
I
It's an awesome song.
want to dance all over your face.
That's a
You
great
remember
lyric.
it like a bad commercial.
That's
It
a great lyric writing right there.
It worked. You
Yeah,
remembered it,
it's got hooks. You remember
right?
it.
Hooks in your face.
Awesome. Yeah, I love
Right?
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an all-around superb album for sure. Yeah, definitely in that 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 range.
Yeah.
I think when I did listen to Asylum, I don't know. Asylum still sounds a little fresh to me. I think maybe I was just a little maybe I played Lick It Up too many times in the last whatever years, whatever. So
Those
maybe,
two albums are on par with each other.
maybe that's
Asylum's
why
a
I
great
just
one.
swapped it out. Maybe the Asylum just feels a little bit fresher, but whatever. But Steve, we'll go up next with your next pick.
Hey guys, well, this is rolling along nice. So as I'm going down my list, I noticed that there's a little bit of a trend. As I'm getting older, and I'm going in reverse on the time frames, because as I'm discovering more, I want to go back to where it came from. So after I'm through my Alive and I want to seek out the earlier stuff, I go to Destroyer, then Love Gun, then I jump back to 75 and discover a whole different style and sound of Kiss in Kiss Alive 1. It introduces me to songs like Deuce, Strutter, Parasite, Black Diamond, Hotter Than Hell. And I went, wow, these guys actually had some good heavy stuff before all the glitter and glam and all the big shows, before, you know, Dress to Kill and Hotter Than Hell and all that stuff. I was like, so it sent me, and I really got into the earlier stuff that, you know, a lot of people, they didn't know about Kiss till they started doing Dr. Love and Christine 16 and more rock and roll all night. Here I'm getting into like Black Diamond and, you know, Strutter.
Yeah.
Great tune, man. It's just a driver. And Deuce, he's worth a deuce. Still to this day on the Classic Rock channel, man. And when it comes on, I'm like, yeah, that's some good rock, man. And that's, well, 40 some years now. So good album for me. You know, didn't have all the extra production and all the stuff on the Live 2, but it gave me some great songs to go look for in albums of Kiss that, you know, were a little earlier than my day, actually, you know, because I was probably only 9 or 10. So that takes me back till I was 5 or 6. So whatever, but great album to this day. Great songs on there.
Yeah.
Parasite, so many bands have covered that song and done justice or not, but, you know, Black Diamond, great. Strutter, awesome. There's other good songs in there, but those ones stand out for me. That album's got to be on my list. Kiss Alive 1 in the original makeup.
That's
Love
the
it.
only Alive one I have.
Yeah, those first couple Kiss albums that were kind of lacking a little bit of maybe like production, maybe some like energy, like some energetic production sort of thing. So when they did that live album, it really brought those songs to life and, you know, gave people the crowd and the noise, and it kind of energized those songs up, and then it got people to listen back like, hey, those songs actually were pretty good. With just the production was a little flat sort of
They
thing.
just made you believe they were better than they were, and you better go check it out to make sure. That's all. So, and I found some gems myself.
Parasite's like pretty heavy, and Cold Gin. Cold Gin's
Cold Gin.
awesome.
Classic. Pantera covers that song. You know,
So I think that Alive really jazzed up those songs and kind of gave them life. And I think that's why it was so relatable that Alive became an unknown hit out of nowhere, an unexpected hit out of nowhere, because it probably did really liven those songs up quite a bit. So that's a good pick. I'm sure it'd probably be lots of people's first foray into Kiss. Obviously, I think that's one of the biggest selling live. I think that is probably the biggest selling live album of all time.
Yeah, popular live album.
Kiss
So,
Alive 1,
I'm sure that's biggest selling
1975.
for a reason.
I was 7.
Cool. So we'll get Big Dog's next pick here.
All right, this pick I know is going to be controversial with everybody, but I don't care. I got to go with my gut. I got to go with it. I listen to this stuff all the time. When I'm in my car, I'm driving. I got to have happy stuff. All right. I like power pop. I'm not afraid to admit it. I like it. Okay.
What is it, David? What is it?
Unmasked.
Oh,
I love this album.
Unmasked.
What is it?
Unmasked.
Oh,
Oh
Unmasked.
my God.
I love this
Unmasked.
album. I describe it as power pop perfection. I love it. And the reason why I love it is because, it's got really great Fraley songs on it. It's got Talk to Me. It's got Two Sides of the Coin. It's got Torpedo Girl. Those are some of Ace Frehley's. Those are some of his best songs, I think.
Fuck, I haven't heard that in 30 years.
They're not bad songs. They're really good songs. And it's got, I guess this was a big hit over in Australia with Shandy. I don't know.
Shandy.
Yeah, that was a huge hit in Australia.
Huge.
They went down there. They were like the Beatles down there. I was reading. People were like going nuts over these guys.
In platform.
So it's really cool. And I love Gene's song "Naked City." That's one of my favorite songs. It's been covered by some other bands. "What Makes the World Go Round" by Paul. "Tomorrow," "She's So European," "You're All That I Want." I love all these songs, and I know there's some co-writes here with the guy from Dynasty who did produce Dynasty, Vinny Poncia. But this is power pop. This is pop metal. This is not heavy. They're kind of a little bit deceiving with the comic book cover, where you think that they're going to take their masks off, but they don't do it really to lick it up.
And in the original album, they had the poster that they said was inside
Hey.
Kiss Unmasked. And you took it
Hey.
out, and it was masked with them with the makeup on. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah,
Right?
I can't remember where I found this at. I bought this used. I found it years ago, and
There it is. There it is.
Wow.
You got the poster, bro.
Wow.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
That
Wow,
is cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome poster.
it's like huge.
Yeah.
Dave, I didn't see it. My camera
Yeah.
cut out. Show me that just from, oh my God, there it is. The whole reason I bought it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And you can tell Kiss had a sense of humor about everything, like about people saying about their critics, because on the end of this comic it says, the guy says, "I still think they stink." So they had a sense of humor about it. So that's why I love Kiss so much, is because they know they're not the critics' darlings. They tried to be with music from the Elder, but at some point they just said, you know what, screw it. We're gonna just write kick-ass rock and roll songs, and we have our fans that love us and will buy anything. Me being included, I'll buy anything. Greatest hits, whatever's got a Kiss name on it, I'll buy it. I'm one of those guys that will, even though I know that I shouldn't buy it and it's been done 1,000 times, I'll still buy it. So they got me hooked, and there's an energy on this album that I love. It's not dark at all. There's no spitting fire. There's no spitting blood. It's pop metal before, there really was kind of a thing, because this was like 1980, I think.
Yeah.
So they were just still finding their way, and the band was a mess in 1980. I don't even think Eric Carr didn't play on this album. I think it was
Eric Singer.
Anton Fig from the guy who played in David Letterman's band on the Late Show. It was Anton Fig who played on this album.
Wow.
He's actually a really good drummer. So I like this album. I like the hooks. I like the songs. You can play the whole album from start to finish, and I play this in the car all the time. Love it.
It is a good album. I agree.
And honestly, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm kind of ashamed to say it because I know everybody's going to make fun of me, but it's probably in my top 25 albums of all time. That's how much I love it.
Wow.
No shame in that, brother. but I got to say, on when you were talking about that comical aspect, I totally, I don't, I'm not huge on that album. I don't know it that well. I've heard some good tracks off it, but I'm not going to comment on the album itself, except I know what you're saying. The satire of them 25, 30 years in, poking back at how many times guys said, you guys are nothing. You're not going to go nowhere. They had to come up with gimmicks and the makeup and the show because they weren't that strong as songwriters in the beginning. They didn't have any real hits. They had to put live albums and convince people they had hits. And then we went and looked and found hits, and then they became. But so that little tongue in cheek, yeah, I still think they stink because that's what they heard for the first 10 years until they were touring the world and saying, fuck, who stinks now? There was an album, Unmasked. That was a in your face. We ain't taking our makeup off. We're gonna rock.
Yeah,
my opinion.
That's why I love them. I love their attitude, and
Attitude.
they're gonna put on the best show. They're gonna put on a
They're still
show
here.
like you've never seen before, and they still do. The guys are like 70 years old. And they still do.
You're still buying it,
I'm still buying it.
right?
I'll still be buying the Kiss Greatest Hits 10 years from now. They're gonna put out some Greatest Hits thing with all the same songs. I'll still buy it.
No, skip that. But I'd say I'd go with Crazy Nights over Unmasked.
Ugh.
I like Crazy Nights.
I'd say Crazy Nights probably does it a little for me a little bit more than Unmasked. Unmasked's pretty soft, but Crazy Nights can get.
Well, there's no big arena sound here.
I don't know.
There's no arena sound here. This
No,
is pop metal made for the radio.
Yep.
Soft, yeah, it's pretty soft, but
Smooth. Smooth.
I Crazy Nights over that one. Me personally. And go next is my last two picks have already been picked, but I didn't have a good time to chime in since I had mine in order. So this is my second favorite Kiss album. I'd go with Kiss Animalize, and much like David was saying, Big Dog was saying, where the cover don't look like much, but this is one hell of an in-your-face rock and metal album. And even right from the get-go, you got Eric Carr doing his little drum-filled double bass. He's bringing in some double bass kick drums in there. I think for the first time ever on a Kiss album, even though there might have been some on Creatures of the Night, I don't know if there was some double kick drum, but here we are, Eric Carr adding some heavy double kick drum in here into the fire right off the bat. And right off the bat with Into the Fire, you're getting a full-on in-your-face kind of rock and heavy metal album. Yeah, I love this whole album. Burn, Bitch, Burn, Burn, Bitch, Burn, Lonely as the Hunter, Under the Gun, Murder in High Heels. Yeah, just this great album. And yeah, I just think that that first song, that up-tempo-y double kick drum, this album just totally pumps me up. As soon as I put it on, I know it's going to be a super fun ride.
Yeah, that's a good album.
Yeah, I love when albums kind of start off with that really high tempo, and it pretty well stays maintained most of the time. Sure, there is some goofy topics and some goofy song titles, but I don't really care too much about the lyrics. I'm not really much of a lyricist as long as the beats and grooves are driving and the guitars are there. I'm usually on board, so I don't really care too much about some of the corny lyrics.
So one of the best catchphrases that I've ever heard on any album is on Animalize. It's on Burn Bitch Burn, the track you just mentioned. It's when Gene says, "I'm gonna put my log in your fireplace." I'm like, come on, man. That's the worst line, but the best line ever. It's like it's the worst, stupidest thing anybody's ever said, but it's the funniest thing ever. It's total cheat, man.
Brian Johnson hit it with "Let me cut your cake with my knife."
I mean,
I'd say there's probably a ton of great one-liners in this.
That's great, terrible lyric writing. Oh, another one on this album is actually by Paul. On Under the Gun, he goes, "There's no speed limit where I'm coming from. Let's hit the highway doing 69." Freaking great! Every time I hear that album, it's another one of those albums. Kiss makes me smile. They don't pretend to be something that they're not. They just pretend to like rock, and that's all they care about.
They sold sex and rock and roll.
Yeah, the only album where they kind of pretended to be what they were not was Music from the Elder, but I thought it was brilliant anyway. So whatever.
I'd say
Okay,
still to this day,
okay.
this feels the freshest to me. Where I listened to this one probably the most out of any Kiss. This is probably the one I listened to the most. Just because, yeah, it still feels fresh and still feels upbeat and super energetic. All the guys felt like they were having a blast, like they're having a good time, and yeah, just what it sounds like, and it comes across. I don't know.
Those lyrics are so corny, but they're so funny.
Yeah, and Gene. It seems like everything Gene sings, he sounds like he's really having like a super fun time. He's just like it's just like a totally party metal album sort of thing. And yeah, I really dig it for that reason. Hmm. And we're doing last rounds, I believe. Yeah, last round. So Dave Witherall with your last kiss.
Right on, guys. Save the best for last. No, just kidding. I'm actually going to change up my last pick because my last pick was actually Animalized. And I think we've talked enough about that one. So, you guys are probably going to all disagree with this one, but this album was it's in my notables, so I'm going to put this one as my last pick.
I like that album. I like that album.
My last pick.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
Charisma, X-ray eyes.
X-Ray Eyes.
Magic
2009
Touch.
cover, Rolling Stones.
Magic Touch. Love that track.
And their
that was
disco
me.
hit.
Oh man, great album. Yeah, a lot of people, might have kind of down on this album because of the kind of had that disco vibe in it, but it was like yeah, it was like disco hard rock, man. It was awesome. Yeah, I think
That had a
this
poster
album holds
too.
a special place for me because this was the first Kiss I ever heard. Was this album here? So, yeah, great album.
I think that came with a poster too. They were like in straight jackets or something. Very dark poster.
I don't think I have a poster. Oh wait, no, I do have a poster. Yep,
Oh,
I got her. Oh, yeah, this is a big poster too.
Yeah. Maybe they're not in straight jackets.
Wait, no, they're not in straight jackets. So
No, just Dynasty. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I didn't know they had a poster in it.
I'd say that album's pretty good. I think there's some good clear-cut standout tracks. Probably had like 4 clear-cut standout tracks, but then there was a couple fillers in there. Well,
There is, yeah, there is.
So I think that's why probably Dynasty wouldn't make a top 5 for me, even though it is okay. Like there is some clear-cut standout tracks, but then there's some filler in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that came out in that disco era, and people were they
Yeah.
were heavily kind of they were experimenting on their sound, so to speak. And I know some people were really offended probably back in the day. When
Yeah.
Steve's clenching his face there, like, oh, I don't know. But there is some good sound tracks for sure. I play it once in a while, but then there's some skippers on there as well. But
Yeah.
sometimes those skippers, people really fall in love with those slower
Yeah.
tunes, or may speak to a certain someone or whatever. Yeah, like I dig my slow tracks. I dig Beth and a bunch of slower Kiss songs for sure, and like all the hit songs. I like all those.
I have the concert program from that album, but I can't find it.
Nice.
Oh no, I was waiting for you to do big reveal. Yeah, okay, you can find it.
I did find this though.
Oh, nice. Yes, I remember that.
The Kiss comic book with their blood in it.
That's cool. Haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, this is in really great condition. I bought this a few years ago, actually. And
Nice.
It's in really good condition.
That's pretty cool.
Supposedly there's a vial of blood from Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter. They mixed in there with red.
Yeah,
But I don't think so. I think was kind of a gimmick.
Yeah.
And check out how much this cost back in the day. It cost $1.50 back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Probably like a month worth of
Paper route.
yeah. $1.50 for that. It'd be $20 now, but whatever.
And what year did that actually come out?
This was
79, no?
78 or 79, yeah.
79.
78 or 79. I have it sealed up, so I don't really know.
I wonder if there's how many of those are still kicking around.
Oh, I'm sure there's tons, but they're probably not in the best shape. There's actually a second one that was had a purple color. I don't know if I have it. I have Kiss memorabilia strewn about the place. But I was looking for that Dynasty Tour program, which I have. It's really cool. Maybe I'll try to find it again.
It looks like, well, I was going to say, yeah, well, anyway, Steve, if you want to go up with your next pick, and then if Dave finds something to show, we'll show it. But looks like he was looking for his comic book, but.
Well, guys, I can only say that was Dynasty is my fifth because it was really pretty much near the end of my Kiss days for them being so impactful. I was now into Judas Priest and Sabbath and Iron Maiden and Zeppelin, and Kiss was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But Dynasty still holds memory. I guess can still crank up Charisma for some reason. The way Gene sings, it's always got me. It's not really the greatest song, but what is my, just that droning sound. It was cool. And you know what? The whole disco thing that they were competing with and the change, and they put out the video and they're all in the different attire now and they got all the glam and fur and, you know, and I don't know. I still think it's a great album, man. I mean,
It is a good album.
They covered the Rolling Stones track on there, 2000 Men.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great track that nobody heard by the Rolling Stones. And now there you go. I wouldn't even have thought. But X-Ray Eyes, Charisma, and of course, I was made. Who can let that go? It's on the radio. It's disco as fuck. But I still go, hey, there's Kiss. Dun, dun, dun. And I still see that much music video, and they're in the smoke on the stage playing the disco tune. And I'm just laughing my ass off going, you guys suck. But I love it. I love it. Because I'm like, this is not metal. What the fuck? But you know what? They wrote the book on merchandising and branding and keeping it real and rock and roll and sex and drugs and all the imagery. Kiss by far. I can say honestly, if anybody's into hard rock or metal and they don't list Kiss and some of these albums as what inspired them, they're full of shit.
It's true.
Amen. Kiss. Dynasty,
Yes,
79, my number 5 for sure. It is my
Charisma.
Charisma.
Hey, at least Kiss say they pretty well did it all, right? From
They did it
70s
all.
rock, hard rock, then they got into a little bit of disco, dance stuff, and then they moved into hard rock, metal, and then
They
pretty
went
well.
with the times and they stayed along and they're still here today. Everyone knows Kiss, a household name, so good on them. And who cares if you think they stink? You're buying their shit.
You're
Well
right.
said.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Big Dog's last pick.
All right. Well, this album's already been mentioned before, but I gotta mention it again. It's my number one pick. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. It's gonna surprise everybody, but probably not based on my previous picks. Kiss Asylum. This is my number one Kiss album, and I'll tell you why. It is the closest that Kiss ever got to speed metal. Love's a Deadly Weapon, Secretly Cruel. Those are fast songs. And again, Jamie mentioned Eric Carr's drumming. His drum sound on this record is like John Bonham. He basically was the John Bonham of Kiss.
I'm Alive is like a speed metal track.
Yeah, it's the closest Kiss ever got to speed metal. When I first heard this album, I don't know, 20-something years ago, I didn't read the liner notes. I just put the album on. I think I bought it used somewhere, threw it on in my car driving home, and I'm like, who the hell is playing lead guitar on this? It sounded like Eddie, because it was like shred lead guitar. I never heard this before, other than Van Halen. And I'm looking in the liner notes. I'm like, Eddie's not on this album. Me and my naive youth. So I'm looking. It's Bruce Kulick. I'm like, who the hell's Bruce Kulick? So it's like, that's when I'm like, okay, this dude's awesome, and I love this album. And that was my memory of playing this on the way home, buying it used. And just the guitar on this is so amazing, and the drums is amazing. And I don't know if Gene's playing bass on this, but there's some speedy bass. I don't know how the heck he does it, because I don't know if Gene can play that intricate bass. But the bass on this album is freaking amazing. It's like, sounds like the guy in Halloween. Sounds like Marcus Grosskopf from Halloween plays bass on this. Just the intricacy of the bass lines is amazing. He's not just playing in the pocket. He's playing these riffs on the bass that perfectly meld with the guitars.
Joey DeMeo, Manowar.
I don't know. I just don't understand. And I try to I sit down with this album and play guitar to it, and I try to learn some of the songs. The riffs are hard. These are not kiddie riffs. These are not kiddie 70s riffs. These are, some complex 80s riffs, hair, glam metal, whatever you want to call it. And they're heavy and they're hard. So I love this album. I play this album top to bottom. It's always in my car. I rotate maybe 10, 20 albums in my car at one time. I don't listen to any radio. This is one of the albums that's always in my car.
Nice.
So this album makes me very happy. I have it on vinyl. Probably have a couple issues on vinyl. I have 5 of these on CD. This is the West German atomic pressing. It's got the CD looks like an atomic particle. So that's why it's called the atomic. So I look for these pressings whenever I go in stores. I don't know how particularly valuable they are, but they're valuable to me because I like the sound of it.
Yeah, it's all that matters, man.
Yeah, the 97 remaster, I think it was a little bit sanitized for me, as it were all the 97 remasters, which I have them all. So yeah, that's my number one.
That's a great album.
We all agree that album should be on the top 5 for sure.
Lousy cover, great album.
And as close to metal as the time was allowing, because they had a high bar set for them at that time when they put that out. There was all kinds of new shit coming out and they had to compete with, and I'll tell you, so they stepped it up. You say power metal,
the ballads are pretty good too. I mean, Tears Are Falling. That's a really good. And Who Wants to Be Lonely is kind of a it's power ballad-ish, but that song is really doesn't sound like anything Kiss had ever done before. It's got a big galloping riff, and Paul's vocals are just amazing. If you listen to Paul's vocals on Who Wants to Be Lonely, they are just magnificent. He's really at the top of his game vocally there. So I tell anybody who doesn't know Asylum, listen to that Who Wants to Be Lonely track with Paul on it. His vocals are amazing.
Good pick, Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, something about Asylum and Animalize and Lick It Up. Those 3 albums, it just sounds like the band was just having a blast in the studio. They're just having fun.
3 solid albums.
It just comes across like they're just super fun and energetic. Again, I don't know if they were that energetic or if it's just that's the way they had to sound for the songs. But either way, I don't know, something about it's super energetic, and they seemed like they were into it.
Those 3 albums all came when music was changing from that hard rock arena, Zeppelin-y, yes kind of feel to the more harder edge. And they were having fun with the glamour side of it.
They were having fun with it, yeah.
It was fun. It was rock, but it was heavier and louder, and was still party, but it was party and smash someone with a beer. I don't know. I think it was the change in the times too. The music scene was changing when those albums came out. It helped them a lot. Kept them.
Yeah, maybe it did inspire them, right? Yeah, maybe they did see how big Van Halen got, and all these Motley Crue and all these bands were getting. Maybe it did kind of light a fire under their ass, and maybe they were really into trying this new sound. And I don't know, it comes across for me on these albums that.
Did any of you guys read that Kiss Unmasked book?
Some of it.
I've read it. Yeah.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good book. They actually just reading that just recently, and I think from what I remember, they were saying was during the '80s, you guys all mentioned that they wanted to compete with the sound that was out during the '80s, right? So
they're the old dog by then.
Yeah.
Well, they were playing catch up with a lot of the other bands because bands were selling these millions and millions and having these platinum, and they wanted the same success. They felt that they had paid their dues and they wanted the same success. So that's one of the faults of Kiss, is that they're not really the most original band out there as far as songwriting,
Yeah.
But as far as giving it 100% and like giving you the best show on earth, the most entertainment, I think they are one of the most entertaining bands. I don't really care about the songwriting. Music is not only about technical and who's the best and who's the fastest and who's the best riff writer. It's not about that. It's about attitude. It's about sweat. And it's about liberty. It's about freedom, man. And Kiss brings all that in a perfect union.
Kiss gave you what the rock show should be and kept the tunes. You know, they weren't the greatest songwriters, in my opinion, are the musicians. They had some good hits for sure, but they brought you all the extra that we now know is what you expect when you go to a concert. You want to be blown away. And they brought the energy. They brought the stage, the show, the glitter. They made it all happen. I mean, goddamn. I was more blown away by the impressions that I got looking at magazines of their stage persona before I even heard a song. I was like, who the hell are these guys with fire and blood? And then I heard the music, and some of it was really good, and some of it was like, eh. But they tied the package, kept it true, and changed throughout every decade to keep up, like you said. And they had to step it up each time, and they did. And that's why I can say I can give Kiss kudos, even though, 30 years ago they were now just a rock band to me, but they're part of my life. Thank you, Kiss.
One thing that was a standout for me with all like these 80s Kiss albums is the chemistry between like the background vocals, like how they would chime in and out, like, Paul and Gene would kind of crisscross back and forth all the time in certain songs, and that's a really standout thing that some of the other bands weren't doing, right? They didn't have the chemistry with the background vocals, but I think some of the background vocals is what makes it so fun. Whether Gene singing or Paul singing, and then then the other one would reverse and do background vocal, and kind of say something in between. But something like that kind of keeps these albums lively and fun.
Jamie, you touched on something there. That was a good key thing. A lot of the albums earlier, that was interesting to me that they swapped the vocals. It would be Paul, Gene, once in a while even Ace, Shock Me, and then Peter Chris comes on with Beth, and just the rotation even was something new. Wasn't just one singer. It wasn't just Robert Plant or Ozzy. These guys were switching it up, and the background vocals and the harmonies back and forth, it gave them that originality still, and that counts for a lot.
Yeah, and all the songs sounded fresh because they were slightly different vibes and things like that. And
it was genius what they did. They created 4 personas, right? Just like the Beatles did. They created 4 personas. The Beatles had 4 singers. All of them could sing. All of them wrote. And Kiss, all of them sang more or less to some degree, but not all of them. They wrote. Gene and Paul wrote the most of the stuff. But they patterned themselves after the Beatles. Were they the Beatles? Not by any stretch of the imagination.
The Beatles in drag.
Yeah. But were they more entertaining than the Beatles? I think they were more entertaining than the Beatles. Yes, I do. Better songwriters? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. The Beatles were awesome. I'll give them that.
Better showman.
Yeah. But Kiss, say what you want about their songs. They're not the best musicians, but they are the best entertainers.
Exactly. The show.
Yeah. And when I pay my, my $100 or whatever for a seat at a show, I want to be entertained. I don't want to see some guy staring at his shoes, playing his guitar, playing 50,000 notes. I know you can play. Okay, you're awesome. Where's the hooks? Where's the fire? Where's the lights?
Yeah. And a hook isn't right? Give me some energy.
Yeah.
They brought the energy always. You knew you're getting McDonald's when you went to McDonald's. When you went to a Kiss show, you're getting a show and some good rock.
Yeah, and I've seen them 8 times, and I probably they're the only band that I probably could see multiple nights in a row and not really be bored. Like if I saw the same show a couple nights in a row from other bands, it'd be like, yeah, they said this, same stage banner and everything. I'm like, okay, I'm not really into it. With Kiss, I would be into it.
Did they not have great success with their residency at Vegas, where they had double occupancy 5 nights a week? You could see Kiss, and they played there for months and never got old. Because the same thing, you just keep going. It doesn't matter. It's entertaining. It's power. It's energy. And every night you get something new, but it's still the same.
Yeah, and when I'm at the show, when I'm at the show, it's like, who do I focus on? Do I focus mostly on Gene? Do I focus mostly on Paul? Because they're all walking around the stage, they're all doing stuff. The drummer's sitting doing his thing, and Tommy's walking around and stuff. So it's like there's so much to see. So if you went to a show one day, You go to a show the next day and focus on somebody else. There's just so much to see. It's so visually stimulating. It's like it's mind numbing.
Good point.
Yeah.
And my last pick here actually will be so coming out of the Elder and Unmasked, Kiss were kind of maybe tailing off a bit, even with sales, and even their shows were tailing off. Like the amount of tickets they were selling, they were going down, and they knew they needed something to turn it back up. And they came out with a blistering rock metal album, so to speak, Creatures in the Night. And I've got to have this as my #1 Kiss. Just because they were full-on rock metal, you know, coming out of that Elder and Unmasked era. They knew they needed to step it up to keep the Kiss name going, because I kind of read some stories that things were kind of in turmoil a bit. You know, the shows they started getting less attendees, and this is the album that kind of helped them bring their name back into the modern rock world, basically, so to speak. And great album. Even I still love The Last Machine, War Machine. Anytime War Machine comes on, I pretend to play air drums with the opening drum fill there. And yeah, what do you got here? Danger, I Love It Loud, Keep Me Coming, Creatures in the Night. It's just a great album, 82.
And
That Kiss album has the best drum sound of any Kiss album that I've ever heard. The drum sound is, I like to describe it as cacophonous. It's got a lot of reverb. They really recorded the drums so well for that album. And every time I hear that, you know, Eric Carr and the drums on an album, I'm blown away. Not only is it a good album, good songs, but the drumming is what gets me. I love to hear good drumming, good rhythm.
And then to think 2 years earlier, they would have put out Dynasty, or 3 years earlier, they would have put out Dynasty, 79, 80 sort of thing. And, you know, they were kind of trending downwards, and they brought Kiss back to life with that album. That was that in-between album where, you know, coming out of the 70s, they had their failed thing with the Elder, and they said, oh God, what are we going to do here? What's going on? And they kicked everyone's ass with that record.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons when I was reading the Kiss Unmasked, was a good point that I picked up in there was the reason why they came out with the 85 reissue is because that original Creatures actually bombed commercially. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it only went gold. It only sold for like 500,000.
Yeah,
didn't go platinum until recently.
Yeah, but as soon as they released the 85 reissue, then the sales went right up.
It's got to be because that Unmasked totally just left people with a sour mouth, and then they were done with Kiss. So then when this did come out, people were like, oh, yeah, right. And then it did take some time for people to be like, okay, let's go check it out.
Yeah.
That's where I was. And then when I seen the video on MTV for Love It Loud, I was like, oh, hey, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And isn't Dynamo, what's the other one? Domino? Is that on that album? No.
It's on Revenge.
In Revenge. I'm thinking, but Love It Loud, where their eyes are all screwing. Go, do, 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 do. And I was like, hey, Kiss is back. Yeah. And I dug that. But I'll tell you, like you said, that Dynasty, I was pretty much done. And then a few years later, that came out, and I seen the video, and I went, oh, all right. Kiss is still hanging in there. Good for them. And that album, you know, shot them back into their name for sure. And they had video now too, right? Didn't have that previously, you know, the MTV area. Not much till that.
And I even say coming out of the 70s, this was pretty modern with what was to come with the arena rock, arena metal, the production. Like this was very early on with that good thick production, good mix, you know, things like that.
Production on Creatures of the Night is near perfect. Near perfect.
And
like you said, the drum sound too, right? The big drums.
And like arena rock, glam or hair metal didn't even really hit big until like 85, 86 sort of thing. And
yeah,
just, you know, this was before all that. This is ahead of its time in terms of that big sound. I know, I guess Saxon was kind of getting into some of the bigger sounds, and a bunch of bands were getting into some sounds, but that was kind of even a couple of years after where they started playing with that. Like even the first couple Saxon albums were still pretty in that rock and roll kind of. It was heavy, but it didn't have that big arena rock sound that some of the later Saxons and Kisses had.
It was more like a Scorpions
Yeah,
big
Oh.
rock sound, full
but that was
sound.
that was even after there. So I think Kiss was on the cutting edge of what was to be modern 2-3 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone is pressed for time. If you are pressed for time, say something. But I made a little joke or note or something to say, hey, maybe if David wanted to put together some of his least favorite Kiss albums, we'd have a chuckle at the end. But if someone is pressed for time or whatever, we can make out of here. But I don't know.
I'm gonna scoot from the. I'm glad I was here. I was glad that I didn't have to leave early, but time's an issue for me. So thanks,
Yeah.
guys. It was always a pleasure to hang and to go back and step back into those old days for me. Like reminded me of how I got to where I am now. It wasn't for these guys, my life I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I guarantee it, because they led to everything that I ever met or did, was interested because somebody else liked Kiss. Period.
Kiss is like the major gateway, pretty well a gateway drug, a gateway drug to metal, or a gateway drug to rock.
Yeah.
Gateway drug to the
Sabbath, Zeppelin. Okay, boys.
Bye.
thanks a lot for doing the show. Thanks a lot. We'll try to get you back on here as soon as we can.
Always a pleasure, Jamie. Thanks, Dave.
All right.
Dave.
Thanks so much for doing it, man. You rock.
Thanks, boys. Cheers.
But
Cheers.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll just have a couple chuckles here with maybe some of David's least favorite. I wouldn't mind a couple of chuckles here to finish off the show.
So I'm gonna go with. I don't really care for this album all that much. It's the Sonic Boom. It was the first. I think it was the first studio record with Tommy Thayer. The first track, Modern Day Delilah, is actually a very good track. It very much reminds me of 70s Kiss, but then the album kind of devolves into this schlocky, cliched kind of. The lyrics are terrible. Songs don't have the strongest hooks. They seem like might be that's awesome. They seem like they kind of might be rewrites of stuff that they were working on in the 70s. They might have had in the can somewhere. And like, oh, we had this idea. Let's flesh it out a little bit more. That's what this album seems like to me. And I mean, the packaging on this is amazing. This is a sealed one from Walmart. And I believe in 2009, this was only sold at Walmart. You can only buy it there. And it was a big package. It had 3 discs. It had some re-recorded stuff, early stuff. And it had a DVD, Kiss Live in Buenos Aires. So it was actually, you got a lot of bang for your buck, and maybe they knew that the album wasn't so strong, so they put a ton of extras in there. And I mean,
it's definitely not a favorite of mine either.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's song "Never Enough" is not a good song. I hate the song "Yes I Know Nobody's Perfect." "Stand" is a pretty good song. "Hot and Cold" is terribly schlocky. I mean, just bottom of the barrel lyrics. "All for the Glory" is okay with Eric Singer singing that song. "Dangerous" is okay. "I'm an Animal" is terrible.
Dangerous, I like that one.
You like that? Yeah, it's okay. I mean, "Say Yeah," they played that in concert. I don't like that song. It's so cliched. I don't know. So this album doesn't do it for me.
I'd say out of the new Kisses, I would prefer Monster over Sonic Boom. I actually really dig I really dig Monster.
Yeah, me too. It's a heavy album.
That's pretty good, yeah.
And then this is kind of when Kiss went a little bit grunge with Carnival of Souls. This album I probably listened to the least of all the Kiss albums. It was right before the reunion, and they kind of put this out really hastily. There's some good tracks on it, but it's very dark. It's not very Kiss-like. It's kind of it's the opposite of Asylum and Animalize.
Sure,
it's very dark. It's dissonant. It's very grungy. Again, they're trying to play catch up with the times. It was 95-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. 95,
90
96,
97,
97.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
97, yeah.
So they were playing this heavy, trying to maybe catch up with grunge or new metal or something or whatever was at the time.
Yeah.
I do like the song "Hate" with Gene on it. "Rain" is pretty good, but after that, I don't know. They're trying to be like too serious on purpose, and it's just not Kiss.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I played this the least of all the Kiss albums.
I don't mind that. I didn't mind some of those tracks. It's pretty good. Like half the album's okay, maybe.
Yeah, I like the first two tracks, and I can't listen to it anymore.
I do. I definitely understand where you got to be in the mood for it because it is kind of that grungy-ish sound, I suppose you call it. Just like how Van Halen had some of those '90s albums that were kind of veering a little into that, and same with Motley Crue had those kind of mid '90s albums that were kind of veering into that sort of realmish too. I forget that one. I think the Motley Crue self-titled there with '94.
Self-titled one, yeah.
This
Yeah.
might surprise some people. This is not one of my favorite Kiss albums, and the reason why it's not one of my favorite Kiss albums because the production is absolutely atrocious.
It is, David. Yep.
They neutered Eric Carr's drums, and I love Eric Carr that they just did so wrong by him here. I mean, the songs are pretty good. If they had halfway decent production, the songs aren't bad at all. I mean, Crazy Nights is a great song. It's a great track.
It is, yeah.
And
It's
then,
one of my least favorite as well.
Yeah. And My Way is, I don't know, it's getting a little serious with the lyrics and stuff, and it's,
Yeah.
I mean, the guitar playing is really awesome. It's just the production, and it's another one of those covers. It's kind of like, the Cracked Mirror cover, very very 80s.
I've given that one a lot more chances here the last couple of years, and that one's actually kind of grown on me a bit. Again, it's not like all great, but I found some more songs that I originally didn't like that I ended up changing my mind on than I did like. So I found that album to actually grow on me a little bit more.
I like the song "Hell or High Water." That's a good track.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's cool. The vinyl. So I've seen the vinyl in places, but it's very expensive, so I haven't bought it.
I do think that is better. I do put that and Unmasked on the kind of the same level, like your D tier Kiss albums, and I would prefer Crazy Nights over Unmasked.
And then this will be probably the second worst Kiss album ever. I mean, it's more of it's a compilation, but they made Strutter. They kind of remixed Strutter and called it Strutter '78.
Yeah.
And they made it into a disco song. They were trying to dovetail off the "I Was Made for Loving You" thing.
Yeah.
And they just, oh man, this is just terrible. I didn't buy this until I put off buying it for years and years and years. I didn't buy this until like maybe a few years ago. And it's just terrible compilation. It's one of the many myriad 50 different Kiss compilations that they put out, cash grabs as they call them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have a full collection.
The number one worst Kiss album. I mean, this is kind of another compilation. And I mean, this is just another cash grab.
Yeah, I've seen them before. I don't have it.
This is just terrible. I mean, I love the song "Let's Put the X in Sex." That's a great track, and the video for that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But what they did here, another thing that is they neutered the drums on this. They remixed it, and they remixed the drums down. So the songs just don't sound good at all. I mean, you've got "Deuce," "Lick It Up," "Heaven's on Fire," and they just destroyed they remixed it it sounds like garbage.
Yeah.
So this
I'm really familiar with that one.
Yeah, this might be the worst. If you see it used for like $3, then I would get it. But I wouldn't. And just an honorable mention for not a bad Kiss album, but one that I don't like a lot, and for reasons that I'll explain to you, is I don't like "Hot in the Shade" a lot. It sounds very demo-ish to me. It doesn't sound very polished. And another thing is, a lot of the stuff that I dislike about Kiss is how they treated Eric Carr. I don't think they treated him very well in the band. He wasn't like a full member. He was kind of just a hired gun, but he really had more talent than all those other guys did. He actually could play drums, obviously. He could sing. He played guitar and bass. He could do all those things, and they didn't really utilize him correctly. And one of these songs, I think it's "Love's a Slap in the Face." It's a 6-track. It's actually not even Eric playing. It's a drum machine.
Uh,
So that's one of the key reasons, that and the demo-ish quality of the production is why I don't play this album a lot. It's not really a bad Kiss album. It's just one that I wouldn't rate very highly because of those things. There's some really good tracks on here. You know, Rise to It, Hide Your Heart. I like Read My Body. But then there's some real schlock on here, like Silver Spoon and Cadillac Dreams. Those songs are terrible. Those are terrible songs. And then they come back strong with The Street Giveth and The Street Taketh Away. And I like Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell. And what I mentioned before, that track that Eric sings on, the only Kiss studio track that he really sings on, Little Caesar. I love that song. So I actually have a love-hate affair with this album.
yeah.
I like some of the songs. I love some of the songs, but I hate how they presented them.
Yep.
But not a bad Kiss album. Just I have issues with it.
Yeah, I'd probably rank that middle-ish pack for me if I were to do like a full Kiss ranking. Although a lot of those early Kiss albums would probably be actually a little bit ahead of it, just for the iconic staples that are on some of those earlier albums. But that's a pretty good album in general.
Yeah.
So I have a love-hate affair with the 80s. I love probably the first 7 or 8 years of the 80s, and then the last few years of the 80s I really dislike, which is very odd for me because I love, my wheelhouse is like from 85 to 91, 92. That's the stuff that I like the most from any bands.
Right.
That's my wheelhouse. And you know, I like the 70s stuff, a lot of bands, but it just didn't have the oomph that the 80s has. And that's a prime example with Kiss. Kiss had lots more oomph in the 80s
Yeah.
than they did in the 70s. And in the 90s and the 2000s, that's, you know, the 2010s, and now that's a whole different ball of wax, you know, with these bands. So it's not something you can cover in like this kind of a show. Totally different show.
Yeah, cool. I think we got our Kiss talk in, our 5 favorite Kiss albums each, and I think that's kind of the tail end of the show here. I don't think we really need to say too much more other than doing a full Kiss biography, which we're not doing. If you do want to go watch a biography or documentary, go for it.
That'd be 10 hours.
Yeah, I'd love to do a documentary biography, but we're just not really doing that. We wouldn't have all our information. But it's kind of, I guess, would be the tail end of the show here. Anyway, if you guys want to say goodbye and subscribe, Mosh, and see you later.
See you guys.
Peace.